two-point lighting is a technique that builds off of the foundational key light and adds a second light to get a more dynamic frame. So today we're going to look at two setups for two-point lighting, and we're going to kind of see how to use this in a couple creative ways. I think you're going to enjoy it. I know you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for being here. This is the Neewer Academy. So two-point lighting, we're going to get started right now with our key light. And you can see I've got a Neewer 660 Pro. This is an RGB panel light. We also have Shelby. Shelby is here again. She was in our one-point lighting video. By the way, if you haven't watched that, I go into a little bit more detail about getting that Rembrandt light placement. Good thing to check out. So welcome back if you watched it. If not, go look at it. It's good. So here we are. This is the Neewer 660 Pro panel. Like I said, RGB panel light. Also take a look at our batteries. I love shooting with the batteries. They last forever, not forever. They last for like 3 hours at full power, and there's no cables snaking around the studio floor. Plus, if you're on location, you don't have to worry about finding the power source. Let's take this guy and mount it horizontally. This is just going to give us greater range of motion with the barn doors out like they're going to be. I'm going to lock that down. So let's power up and take a look. You can probably see right now in the camera side light, very strong light, never flattering. As soon as we come high, we start getting a much better look to our light. This is at 5,500 Kelvin, so is our camera. So are all of our cameras. And I've got this just at half power. This is 50%. We're not going to use any diffusion. We're not going to bring anything else in. We're going to keep our gear really, really minimal. So let's just take a look at how our key light is playing. And you can see I've kind of got that Rembrandt look spilling down from the top. We've got a nice angle. The other side of the face has strong shadow. We've got this triangle of light. This, I think, you know, we always come back to light like this for our key light because it's really like the most flattering light. So it's a good thing to master, a good thing to practice. So one thing I'm going to look at right now is our background. Our backdrop is getting light cast on it. And I don't like that because I really want this isolated. So I can bring my barn doors in and I can really shape this light right on Shelby. And I can also turn it a little bit if I want, just to cut some of that light out so I'm isolating her. Can also bring it off the shoulders. Now, if you want to get really dramatic with your light, you can use things like flags to cut this and really get hard lines, hard shadows, little isolated clips of light. I really like that stuff. We'll probably do that in a future video. But for now, we just want a nice key light. And I think we've got it. I'm really happy with this. So let's move over to our second light for our two light setup. All right, so we got our key light set up. And you can see we've got nice light here on Shelby's face. Problem is, there's too much contrast. So when we did a one light setup, we brought a little bounce in here using a 5-in-1 reflector, but we've got a second light, so we're going to set this up right now for our fill. The nice thing about having a light that you can dial the power up and down is you can control the amount of contrast. So right now we've got a lot of contrast between our shadows and our key light, our highlight, and our fill is going to let us control that. So let's pop this guy on. And we can see, okay, now we're blasting it out. So this is what I mean, we can get rid of the shadows altogether. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to start dialing this all the way down. You can really see how that's changing the light. All right, now this is at 1%. So at 1%, we're just putting a little bit of fill light in there. I can click it off and on so you can see. That's nice. I actually want a little bit more in those shadows. So I'm going to dial this up. And there you can see it's just giving a little bit of life to that side of her face. We still have some contrast. We still have that direction from our key light that we spent so much time making sure was working. But now we've just put a little bit more light in. So this is a nice looking light. This is a decent 2-light setup. This is kind of a standard key fill. So there you go. That's example number 1. The only thing that I think is lacking here is it doesn't really have much punch. So the next lighting setup we're going to show you with 2 lights is going to have a little bit more drama, a little bit more snap to it. This is really good. You will use this. The next one's going to be even cooler. So let's do that now. All right, so we've got our fill light turned off, and now we're going to show another scenario we can use for a 2 light setup. This time, instead of having this light come as a fill, we're going to bring it around and use it as a backlight. So this is still at 9% power, which is where we had it for our fill light. I'm going to dial this up, and I'm going to bring it behind Shelby. And we've got some choices here on where we can place it. We can place it behind either one of these shoulders. I like to place a backlight on the opposite shoulder from our key light, which is what we're going to do with this. So let's just go ahead and bring it around. We have this at 9% power. I'm going to put it here, and you can see it in the frame, which is not where we want it, but I'm keeping it there just so we can kind of see what it's doing. So there it is. 2 things to worry about with your backlight. Number 1 is you don't want it in your frame like it is right now. And number 2, you don't want to get a lens flare. So I'm going to move this light. Let's put it right about here. So I'm getting it out of my frame, but unfortunately I'm definitely still going to get a lens flare. So what we can do to avoid the lens flare is we can just turn the whole thing, and we can also start closing our barn doors a little bit. And I think right there it should be gone. Let's take a look at the power here. I've gotten rid of my flare, but I think I'm really hitting this a little too hot. If I go way down, we're not really getting much of anything. As I'm dialing this up, you can start to see a lot more information. Right now I'm at 20%. I'm going to click it off, and I'll click it back on. And I think that looks pretty darn good. So I really like what the backlight does to separate someone from a background and also just to add a little bit of punch. So you can see a little bit of light here on Shelby's chin, on her cheek, definitely here on the shoulders. It's just a lot hotter light than our fill light was, and it really just adds a lot of dimension and depth. I love this sharp light coming in from the background. We've got our nice key. I'm really happy with this as a 2 light setup. So that's it, 2-point lighting. Really simple. Key light and that secondary light that we've got some options with for placement to get different results. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. We'll see you next time.